you guys some updates on what I'm doing, because I'm constantly experimenting and I'm constantly learning from my experiments. And to me, life is a big experiment, and wow, is it fun, wow, is it engaging, wow, is it fulfilling and enriching and nourishing to experiment with your health, man. It feels so fun to feel like a living alchemist. You have so many freedoms in this life. You can experiment with herbs. You can make herbal extracts. You can start making your own alchemical medicine. For people who are interested in that, I recommend picking up a copy of Robert Allen Bartlett's book, his volume, Real Alchemy, A Primer for Practical Alchemy. A Primer of Practical Alchemy. Unfortunately, a lot of alchemy utilizes alcohol, strong alcohol like Everclear, very strong distilled spirits to extract nutritive elements out of herbs. So I did delve into this quite a bit. I delved into the art of making planetary spagyrics, which are planetary alcohol tinctures. I did do that heavily in the past. I may get into it years down the road, but for right now, I don't even like putting alcohol tinctures on my tongue. Just don't. But wow, let me tell you, spagyrics are pretty damn interesting. I'll make a video about that in the future, but you know, I used to take herbs even when I was an alcoholic. This is a true story. I would go to the liquor store. I'd buy an entire handle. I believe a handle's a half gallon of vodka or what's the other one I use? We'll just stick to vodka for this this rant. I'd buy a half gallon of vodka, and I would take like gotu-kola leaves, and I would dump it like a cup or more into the vodka, and I'd shake it up really good, and I'd leave that particular half gallon sitting under my bed for upwards of a month sometimes, usually between 2 weeks and a month. And after that, I would filter the herbs out and drink the end product. And wow. When I made a gotu-kola alcohol tincture and I drank multiple shots of that, it could be felt. And even my brother at the time, he was home, and I gave him a shot of it, and he was amazed at how stimulated his brain felt. So alcohol really does have a affinity to pull nutritive elements out of herbs per se, but unfortunately, you know, I've really considered using alcohol tinctures as a ex-alcoholic, but you know, the other day I really sat down with myself and I said no, because all it takes is one little taste. So I like being overly precautious, somewhat not psychotic. Excuse me. I like being overly safe. Is all I'm getting at. Because looking back at my old self, I never want to go down that road. I'm very lucky. I'm very glad to be alive. I'm very lucky to be alive, and there isn't a day that goes by that I don't say thank you to the higher power for allowing me to live through everything that happened to me. I really am a living model of being brought back to life, in my opinion. I've had multiple near-death experiences due to my own ignorance in the things that I put in my body. Alcohol. I drank so much alcohol. I drank so much alcohol in 3-4 years. I've drank enough for the next 50 lifetimes. I am amazed that I've made it and that I'm alive today. So, I'm so afraid. I was so afraid for my life in the end of my alcoholism that I became so afraid of it that I'll never touch it again. Delirium Tremens, extreme alcohol withdrawals are so frightening that it really can motivate you to never want to touch alcohol again. And that is a deep learning experience. I don't want to keep talking about alcohol. I've had a ton of motivation to make videos on alcoholism lately, though, because I do believe that after being sober for so long and staying sober, I've matured a lot, and I can help other people. And man, sometimes when you're going through all this stuff, it can be very reassuring and very beneficial to talk to someone while you're going through all this stuff, especially withdrawals. Although personally, when I was going through withdrawals, I didn't want to see anyone. I had the worst anxiety. Even being around family members tripped me out massively. So even being around animals when I was going through the DTs. The weirdest thing, and it still gives me chills even thinking about it, that I experienced when I went through Delirium Tremens, I'm literally getting chills all over my body, was, give me one moment. See, that's the scary thing about going through Delirium Tremens. That's the scary thing about going through alcohol withdrawals, is it can alter your consciousness and scare you so much that it can give you post-traumatic stress. It can give you PTSD, also known as post-traumatic stress disorder, where even years down the road, if you feel something that makes you feel like you were in blah, blah, blah. Let me try that one more time. Years down the road, after you've recovered from your alcoholism, you can feel certain emotions that remind you of the emotions and feelings that you were experiencing when you were going through your withdrawals, and it can make you feel like you're experiencing it again. Now, I've developed a system on navigating through this stuff and nullifying the effects of this. This is another reason why alcohol needs to be stayed away from. And again, after I rant this long, my mouth gets really dry. Staring at the computer screen makes my eyes dry too. So bear with me here. I've got some important stuff that I think can help people who are going through this. Even people who haven't gone through alcohol withdrawals, I believe can benefit from this information. The scariest experience that I went through during my DTs, aside from feeling like I was dying and believing it, was at one point I was in my room and I felt the presence of multiple demonic entities around me. I could see them as well as flashes of light, dark little patches of light moving throughout the room. They were there. That's the subject for another rant. Most people think these things aren't real and that they're just illusionary and hallucinations. No. And I'll talk about that in the near future in a separate rant. But there was a group of these demonic entities around me who were giving me auditory hallucinations. I was hearing them giggle, and they were giggling like little children. And I was hearing circus music in the background, like carousel music. This went on for hours. And there were little boys giggling. I could hear their voices were like little children, girls and boys giggling, talking about how I had so much potential in life, and that they were happy that I was dying. They would giggle and snicker at me and make incredibly frightening comments about, look at him, Mr. Alcoholic. He had all those dreams. He had all that potential. And now he's going to go to hell with us. And now he's dying. Back and forth, because I was in the middle of all this. So one would make some comments and then tell the other one to comment, and then that one would comment, and every once in a while all of them would start giggling at the same time. This went on for hours. My alcohol withdrawals lasted over a month. So this is not something to fuck around with, ladies and gentlemen. Extreme alcoholism needs to be thrown out the window and banished. And I did use sorcery, and I still do, to keep these entities and the demons of alcoholism and addiction away from me at all times. This is a crazy, crazy world. And I know it may sound extreme that I do believe that these entities are real, but after really delving into the realm of shamanism, after experiencing what I've experienced through the art of applied shamanism within this technological matrix, I know that there's much more going on behind the scenes than most people are aware of. And you bet your ass evil spirits are real. You bet your ass good spirits are real. There are angels and there are demons, ladies and gentlemen. So, but I wanted to talk about exercise in this video, and I got a little sidetracked. I always do, but this is a random rant. This is just a free-flowing rant. I like doing these because I can talk about multiple subjects at once. It feels good to let some stuff off my chest. Even if only a few people get a hold of this video, even if only a few people derive benefit from this video, I feel like I've done a good job. I've become obsessed with attempting to help other people feel motivated to get healthier. I'm not trying to make people get healthy because I can't do that. I can attempt to inspire people to take some action in their life and make some of their own discoveries. I attempt to do that from a standpoint of natural healing. Herbalism really affected my life positively. It gave me hope when I felt like I was dying and going through withdrawals and all my other near-death experiences that weren't even related to alcohol. So herbalism really has been my spiritual and physical, what would I call it? First aid kit, so to speak. It has allowed me to a large extent to resurrect myself from the dead. Many of us are walking around, we're practically dead. Just because you're alive doesn't mean you're alive, ladies and gentlemen. Again, just because you're alive does not mean that you're necessarily alive. Because there are states of consciousness that can be achieved through the activation and arousal and stimulation of Kundalini and Christ consciousness. Once the Merkaba becomes activated, you can realize how you were once in a state of lack of life, so to speak. And you know, that may sound crazy to some people, but it is the absolute truth in my opinion. We are literally walking around with so many parasites in our systems. Most of us harbor anywhere from 5 to 25 pounds or more impacted fecal matter, mucus buildup, fungal networks, candida, all these things. I mean, you can live in fantasy land and think that these things aren't real, but I mean, damn, when I first got into this stuff, I thought I was super healthy. I thought that there's no way I have parasites, man. That's only a third world country thing. What are you talking about? I don't have parasites. It was amazing how big my ego was. And it was amazing what my experiments did to my ego. It dismantled it largely. It showed me how my ego, I think I know it all, bro. I don't have parasites, man. I'm healthy. I'm young. That doesn't mean anything. I heard the John Wayne rant years ago about how he had so much impacted fecal matter in his colon. I don't know how true that story is. To some extent, I intuitively feel like that's somewhat of an old wives' tale. But if it is, please provide me with a link with some accurate information proving that. But regardless of whether it's real or not, what I learned from applying cleansing taught me that, holy shit, I do have massive amounts of waste in my system. So I can only imagine. I mean, to think John Wayne didn't have all that stuff in his system when 99.999% of the modern era does without them even being aware of it. I mean, come on. So I've removed so many things from my system, and I still continue to. And one thing that I really hated doing was making 10 steps forward to make 30 steps backwards. So there would be periods where I would cleanse for, a good 60 days. I'd eat really clean, I'd apply the herbs, I'd drink all the clean water, I'd do the heliotherapy, I'd do the circulatory herbalism, which I made my own system for doing that I still follow. And, I did so well, and then after 60 days, something would catch my attention, and I'd start eating vegan junk foods or vegetarian junk foods. And 20 days later, I'd realized that I had originally made, damn it, 10 steps forward just to make 30 steps backwards. And that's unfortunate when you're cleansing, because some of these herbs are not necessarily easy on your system. So they're not things that you want to continually use over and over, such as senna or cascara sagrada, or certain forms of aloe that are rich in ammonia. Things like Turkey rhubarb and slippery elm. I don't like the philosophy of using these things every day. Using senna, if you brew it strong, it can make you cramp up big time, and I don't like using that stuff all the time. So when I was first getting into all this stuff, I did some really silly stuff where I figured, all right, I can just eat whatever I want, and if I take a nice dose of senna or some cascara sagrada, you name it, I can just eat how I want and just have massive eliminations. But your body can become... I need water. Excuse me. Your body can become dependent on laxatives. That shouldn't scare you away from using them. But again, don't take my advice. Always do counter research to everything that I'm claiming. Make your own discernment based on your own judgments. I am not responsible for the mis or misuse of any of the actions you take. We have free will here, people. So use your own judgment, use your own discernment. But yeah, I mean, as I was saying earlier, I mean, how I was so fascinated how each herb that I consumed produced a different effect within my physiology. I was noticing improvements, is what I'm getting at. In certain herbs I resonate with, certain herbs I don't. But that's the beauty of experimenting with them. I learned so much from experimenting with things like gotu kola, things like the flower chrysanthemum. That's something that I love. That is indeed part of my health protocol. 2 flowers, ladies and gentlemen, hibiscus and chrysanthemum flower. You'll have to excuse me, I'm getting a little scatterbrained here. It is 2:50 a.m. Chrysanthemum. The beautiful thing about chrysanthemum flower, not only is it beautiful, but when you brew it, you can. It's gentle enough that you can consume it every day. Unlike senna, Turkey rhubarb, and things of that nature, you don't want to be consuming these things every day. Whorled mallow, papaya leaf, certain things you just kind of want to stay away from repetitive use. But chrysanthemum, that's essentially why I favor it as one of my main drinks in my health protocol, because again, it's gentle on the liver. It helps tone the liver. It helps build the blood. It helps clean the blood. It has a very pacifying effect on the consciousness. It's good for hypertension. It's good for people with an overactive mind. That's just my own personal experience that I've learned from experimenting with it over the years. It is, however, somewhat expensive. You're looking at about $4 an ounce. But once you realize that this stuff weighs hardly anything because it's dehydrated as a tea, an ounce is a huge bag. It'll last you a long time. And for each cup of tea, all you need is about 2 to 3 medium-sized chrysanthemum flowers. And once you pour boiling water over them, they'll plump up and they'll get huge, and it'll make your water this whitish, goldish, light yellow color that's absolutely beautiful. It does have kind of not an offensive taste, but it is rather earthy. It's a little pungent, so to speak. It has kind of a, not a tart. It has kind of a, it stimulates the back of the tongue. It's not tart. It's got, Jesus, I'm stumbling. Again, I'm tired. It's an earthy tartness. That's the way I'd explain it. Not like hibiscus, which is more of a vitamin C flavor, ascorbic acid, but you can sweeten the chrysanthemum with 0-calorie stevia, and it makes a beautiful drink. It's cheap. I like to make it in gallon jugs and then serve it chilled, and I'll sweeten it. Sometimes I won't. Usually I won't. I try not to sweeten things. I think that's kind of a if you can get away in life without having to have everything you eat sweetened or overly salted, you're going to do yourself good. So to this day, I don't understand how many people wake up every day and put milk in cream and sugar in their coffee. It's just like, damn, dude, if people knew what was going on in their bodies by consuming these things, I think that they'd feel motivated to stay away from them. So I am going to try to bring this rant up to an hour long. I am super tired, so I might have to cut it off. I even look tired, man. I didn't get much sleep last night. I was up editing videos, working on my book. I love this new microphone. It seems to work rather well. This is a homegrown habanero. All I have is the seeds left. I can eat these whole, even with the seeds, but I prefer not to because I don't like feeling that overly stimulated. They burn the hell out of my tongue. These are homegrown habaneros. These are nothing like the stuff that you're going to find in the stores. The habaneros at stores are like, there's about as hot as store-bought jalapenos to me. They just don't have any real power to them. But those are so good. When we grow these each year, I pretty much eat them with everything. They complement foods very well.